Reports are coming out that the New York Knicks are going to pick up and guarantee Bojan Bogdanovic's $20 million salary for this upcoming season, which means he's going to be on the Knicks. But reports are also coming out that they are doing that so they could use him as a trade chip to make a big-time move. We're going to break all that down on today's show as you're watching Knicks Now by Chat Sports. But before we do, we got to catch the Los Angeles Lakers report in subscribers, another channel here at Chat Sports. Patrick Seepman, producer Seeps, he's starting to do some videos over there, and he said there is no way that the real ones at Knicks Now will be able to catch them. So if you love the Knicks and you want to prove Seeps wrong, hit that subscribe button right now. Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype is reporting that the expectation is the New York Knicks will guarantee Bogdanovic's salary for this upcoming season, which comes in just shy of $20 million. Just $2 million of his contract is guaranteed money, and then he had another $19 million, or really the entire salary was $19 million in potential earnings. The Knicks have right up until the NBA draft to get it done. It is not official yet on which way they will decide, but Scotto of Hoops Hype is reporting that they are going to fully guarantee this contract. So on today's show, I'm going to tell you what that means for Bogey, what that means for the New York Knicks, and also what that means for the other moves they are going to make or won't be able to make in free agency, because the Knicks have some big-time decisions to make. They're going to do whatever they can to re-sign OG Anunoby in free agency, and there are rumors coming out that he could be looking for a 4-year, $150 million contract. Then you have Isaiah Hartenstein, who's garnering interest across the association, where the Knicks can only offer him a 4-year, $72.5 million deal. And if you bring back OG and you're able to re-sign Hartenstein, the New York Knicks also picking up this extension for Bogey, they may just be an apron team. This was the quote from Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. He said the expectation as of now is the Knicks will guarantee Bogey's salary for the upcoming season, and he'll become a trade candidate in the final year of his contract as a result. That would put him at $19 million for this upcoming year, and there are a lot of guys across the NBA that have a similar type of contract. The Knicks also have draft picks in the future they can dangle in a deal like that. And on paper, and when you just say it out loud, this sounds good in theory, right? We'll pick up Bogey and his $19 million, and then we'll have an expiring $19 million deal to go ahead and make this happen. Yeah, it sounds good on paper, but at the end of the day, is it really all that likely? If the Knicks pick up Bojan Bogdanovic's $19 million guaranteed for this upcoming season, they are going to be in a spot where they are most likely going to be a first apron team and could even be a second apron team if they make some other moves. You know they want to re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein, and if he comes in at that 4-year, $72.5 million deal, and you're able to re-sign OG Anunoby to a potential 4-year, $150 million deal, and on top of that, you add on the $20 million from Bojan Bogdanovic, you are going to be a first apron team. And if you are, you're not going to have the ability to use that full non-taxpayer mid-level exception, and then you're going to have to go the route of using the taxpayer mid-level exception if you do want to make moves in free agency. So if you bring back Hartenstein, you bring back OG, and you also guarantee the money for Bogey, you're going to be in a tough spot when it comes to using assets that you have to further make this team better. You want to have that full non-taxpayer mid-level exception. That's $12.9 million the New York Knicks can use, and you can go get a good player. Maybe like a guy like Kelly Oubre, or you can go out and sign a guy like Najee Marshall. We've talked at length, maybe Tyus Jones, at players the New York Knicks could offer. With this 5.2, you really won't be able to go and get somebody that I think would make an immediate difference. And if you are a first apron team, you're going to be in a really tough spot. You look at the new rules of the CBA. We'll just keep it going. New rules of the apron. Look at this. You can make moves and you can make things happen with that first apron salary. But if you become a second apron team, you are going to be in a lot of trouble if you are the New York Knicks. Because if you're a second apron team, you're not allowed to use pre-existing trade exceptions. You cannot take more money back at a trade. You're not allowed to aggregate contracts. And you're also not allowed to send out cash. If you're a first apron team, the repercussions aren't nearly as steep, but it still makes it tough to make further moves. You cannot take back more money in a trade, and you're also not allowed to use pre-existing trade exceptions. You are allowed to use a trade exception from a new trade, but ideally you want to remain out of those aprons so you continue to build out this roster so you can compete in the Eastern Conference. With all that information, my question to you is this. Should the Knicks waive Bogey? It really comes down to this. Do you want to be an apron team with Bogey on your roster? Or do you want to have that full mid-level exception, and then maybe you could even trade that player if a trade becomes available? Type Y for yes, type N for no. We'll talk more about Bojan Bogdanovic and his contract, and also some players the New York Knicks could trade for if they do guarantee that deal. But first, I got to give a huge shout-out to today's sponsor, Chubbies. Go to chubbyshorts.com/chat and use code chat and get 20% off your order. I'll make sure that link is clickable in the comments. Summer is here, and our friends at Chubbies are bringing the good vibrations. Chubbies is a lifestyle apparel brand that makes every moment feel like a vacation. They say fashion is an expression of one's character, so why not let the world know that you're down for a good time? For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners here at Knicks Now by Chat Sports 20% off your order with our exclusive code CHAT. Use code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com/chat. Chubbies offers a variety of high-quality men's apparel from super stretchy shorts and swim trunks in 3 short inseam lengths to pants, polos, and button-down shirts for when you need to hit up your fave weekend brunch spot. Embrace the spirit of endless summers with Chubbies, the ultimate destination for bold, vibrant, and outrageously comfortable clothing. Shout out to Chubbies for sponsoring today's show. Go to chubbyshorts.com/chat and use that promo code CHAT for 20% off your purchase. Get the perfect swimsuit for this summer. I love wearing their bathing suits. They just fit me, and honestly, you're feeling good when you're wearing them because you are looking good. Get 20% off with code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com/chat. I'll make sure that link and promo code are clickable down in the comments and description of today's show. I want to go back to the quote from Scotto that he had when talking about the Knicks are expected to do so when it comes to picking up Bogey's salary. He said, there are a lot of guys around the league that have a similar type of contract. He was referencing Bogey and his $19 million salary, a number the New York Knicks could trade and, in theory, right, get back a really good player. But we've done this before. We've done this dance to this song. This song sure does sound familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, it's the song Evan Fournier and his $18 million in expiring money. You didn't get anybody really that good. You know who you got for Fournier? You got Bogey. And on top of that, you had to add multiple second-round picks, and you also had to include Quentin Grimes. So you can tell me that you think you can get a really good player with Bojan Bogdanovic and his picks, but you didn't really get one. You didn't get one for Fournier, and you also had to give up Quentin Grimes. But for the sake of the exercise, let's go across the league, look at some players that would fall in the tax bracket that would make them available in a one-for-one swap with Bojan Bogdanovic. It's all about salary right here. Let's start with Dejounte Murray, making about $24.8 million for this upcoming season. When you talk about players making in a similar range that Bogey does, Murray is one of the players that I would actually really be interested in. I think he's a really good player. I don't think he's touched his ceiling as a player. He's only going to get better and better. And I think him in a backcourt alongside Jalen Brunson gives you a versatility that you don't really have. 2 guys that can put pressure on the rim nonstop. While also Murray is an underrated defender. I think at one point he was an overrated defender. Now I think he's an underrated defender. And I think being alongside Tibbs day in and day out, he could grow on that side of the court, and you would have 48 minutes of elite point guard play with Murray and Brunson. Kyle Kuzma, another player that makes a similar amount of cash, $23.5 million for Kuz. And he is a CAA Mafia member, so that makes some sense there. But at the end of the day, is Kyle Kuzma going to come off the bench for you? Are you going to pay all that money for a bench piece? He doesn't shoot the ball all that well, less than 35% from deep the last couple of years. And it kind of just reminds me of an Obi Toppin situation. Because ideally, Randall's going to be healthy. But maybe with Randall and OG being somewhat injury-prone the last couple of years, you would like a serviceable backup like Kuzma. I like the idea. I'm just not in love with it. I'm also not in love with Bruce Brown as a player, but we know that the New York Knicks do really favor his play style, and the way that he overall just affects a game. Tom Thibodeau was a fan of Bruce Brown. What I would tell Tibbs is we have Bruce Brown at home, and his name is Josh Hart. But Brown, $23 million this season, makes him a guy that you could match up Bogdanovic's salary with. Not that great of a score, not what he's known for, but he's really one of those connector pieces. He falls in the similar line of Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, where they just make winning plays and they make players around them better. I don't know if the Knicks absolutely need Bruce Brown. I would prefer more of a scoring guard or a lengthy, long defending wing, but Brown could be somebody the New York Knicks target. Malcolm Brogdon. I feel like we're back at the 2024 really, NBA trade deadline. Brogdon would give you somebody off the bench that could carry your offense when Jalen Brunson does sit down. 6'5", 230 pounds. Last year for Portland, averaged over 15 points per game. We know he could shoot it from outside. He can get others involved as well. He's had some big-time playoff moments before. Injuries are something that I would say have kind of derailed his career and really his potential. But someone that come off the bench, be a super sub for Brunson, and keep this offense afloat when he does need a rest. DeAndre Hunter is another player that I'm actually really interested in. If I had to rank these guys, it'd be Murray and then Hunter, number 2. Hunter fits the bill of what you want as a basketball player. 6'8", 225-pound wing, can defend, also has the ability to light it up from downtown. And there's rumors out there that the Atlanta Hawks could be looking to trade DeAndre Hunter. And if you could add a wing at that size that averages over 15 points per game, is improving as a three-point marksman year in and year out, to come off the bench and be that super sub for Randall and Anunoby, that is something that would greatly interest me. Question is, how many first-round picks are you going to have to add to Bogey to get Hunter? We've seen the Knicks be extremely stingy with these first-round picks. That's why I'm not believing the hype or the report from Scotto that the Knicks really believe they'd get a good player in a trade for Bojan Bogdanovic. Some other trade targets that make similar amount of money as Bogey. Marcus Smart makes $19.9 million. Norman Powell makes around $19. Colin Sexton, I could see that being a player the Knicks pursue at $18.1 million. Still F. Danny Ainge. Lauri Markkanen, I just included him because he makes that money. No way he's coming to the Knicks unless you're giving up Julius Randle. Harrison Barnes, no thank you. Jonathan Isaac, absolutely. But we already got enough injured players. Rui Hachimura makes $17 million. And then Karis LeVert, the scoring wing from Cleveland, makes $16.6 million. This is always just a risky game to play if you are the New York Knicks. Sure, on paper it sounds good. We'll pick up Bogey's money. We'll have $20 million in expiring money to go out and get a good player. But has that ever really worked out for the New York Knicks? I don't think it worked out in the Bogey trade. You had to give up Grimes, and he was hurt in the playoffs. If I was the GM, I would waive Bojan Bogdanovic and spend the full mid-level exception on a player because, one, I think there's better players out there that the New York Knicks could give that 4-year, $55 million contract to. And you know what? I don't know if anyone knows this. You can also trade that player. You can get a better player that makes your team better right now while also trading that player who has better trade value than Bojan Bogdanovic. You would just have to wait until December 15th when players you sign in free agency, you can trade them. So how about you go get a better player than Bogey, younger, fits this team better, and if you want to make that big-time trade, you could still include that player. For me, the only reason that you would accept Bojan Bogdanovic's contract, or I guess you could say pick up his non-guaranteed money of $19 million, is so you could pair Bogey and maybe a guy like Julius Randle, or maybe a guy like Mitchell Robinson, putting two players together to get close to $40 or $50 million in salary so you could go make a trade for a superstar. But keeping Bogey just so you could put him in a deal to get somebody back in a deal that makes $20 million doesn't make all that much sense to me. I would go out and I would waive him so I could sign one of these players in free agency. Maybe a guy like Tyus Jones or Derek Jones Jr. or Royce O'Neal. Some other mid-level exception targets include Monty Morris, Kyle Anderson. If you want to go more of a veteran route, you could look at someone like Kyle Lowry, Gordon Hayward. If you need an Isaiah Hartenstein replacement, maybe someone like Kevon Looney, Jonas Valanciunas, or Gogo Batadze. Maybe some wings you want to look at. Patrick Williams, I think he'd be a little bit too expensive. Kelly Oubre is at the top of my list as an MLE target, just signed with CAA, and a 6'7" wing that can get up and down, play defense, and is a proven scorer. Sounds like something that's a little bit more appealing than Bogey. Najee Marshall, if you want to go a cheaper route. Sadiq Bey, love him as a player. Shout out to the Nova Knicks, but he is coming off a torn ACL. may not be ready to roll until January, or if you want a point guard to run this team for you off the bench, Reggie Jackson could be that player. We've gone through every single scenario, what it means if you keep him, who you could trade him for, or mid-level exception targets if you do waive him. So now it's time for you to answer it again. Should the Knicks waive Bogey? Type Y for yes, type N for no. And make sure to hit me up on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Hit me up over there, and let's go Knicks.